Hey guys, Lonnie, real alcoholic here. All right, let's get into the doctor's opinion. Now, if you notice, I'm reading out the third edition, so I've added these page numbers. This XXV, this page 25, that's where you'll find this whole page in the fourth edition. I'm using the third edition, so for a little while, the Roman numerals will get a little mixed up. But if you look in my handwritten note, you can follow along in the fourth edition. So, in this doctor's opinion, we have this doctor, Dr. Silkworth, was a well-known doctor, a prominent doctor, world's leading doctor in the 1930s concerning alcoholic and drug addiction. And he was treating Bill. Okay, Bill went to this doctor a couple times to detox, learn about alcoholism, try to quit. Bill knew he was whipped, man. He tried to quit several times. So the third time he went to detox was after he had his talk with his friend, and he had acquired some ideas, which were the beginnings of the 12 steps, and he started putting those into practice. And the doctor says that this man and over 100 others appeared to have recovered, right? So the doctor's not just, doctor's not getting paid for this endorsement. He's been working with alcoholics for a while, and he had no answer. And whenever he saw this man and these other men and women that were applying these principles to their lives, and it says, man, they've recovered. Something's happening with them. They're not drinking anymore. And so he's talking about, he personally knows scores of cases where the types with whom other methods had failed completely. Once again, we have no monopoly on recovery. We really don't. But sometimes other methods don't work. And I know for me as a real alcoholic, those other methods did not work. They failed completely. And so I found the answer in this book, Alcoholics Anonymous, and in the Fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous, where I couldn't find it anywhere else. Okay, so Dr. Silkworth tells us on this next page that the body of the alcoholic is quite as abnormal as his mind. In our belief, any picture of the alcoholic which leaves out this physical factor is incomplete. Now, I don't know why, guys, like I said in my story, for some reason it took me forever to accept the physical aspect and the physical factor of alcoholism. Therefore, all those years that I somehow managed to stay sober on that spiritual high or that spiritual drunk, it was really ineffective because I had not fully done a first step. And speaking of first step, we're in the first step right now. The first 4 chapters of this book go through steps 1 and 2. So until we get through the first 4 chapters, we are in steps 1 and 2. So we're talking about this first step here, and that if I leave out this physical factor, all right, the next highlight says the doctor's theory that we have an allergy to alcohol interests us. Okay, we will go on. The doctor will talk more about this allergy, but we have a legitimate physical factor in alcoholics to where something happens in our body that does not happen to other drinkers. And once I accepted that part, sobriety and recovery and you can call them triggers or temptations or excuses or cravings, man, those really came to a halt. It just got real simple that Lonnie, you have a physical disease called alcoholism. You cannot drink. Now, that doesn't mean I'm going to be happy, joyous, and free, but it is, man, it was a foundation stone for me to say I have a physical disease called alcoholism. And so this next highlight, they talk about we favor hospitalization for the alcoholic who is very jittery or befogged, and that a person's body needs to be cleared. We need to clear our brains, and we need to get detox before any of these measures can be of any effect. Um, I am not one. I am not going to whip out a big book, and I am not going to start trying to get people through the steps until we get them detox, man. That is number one priority. You'll notice in most of our personal stories, man, while a person was detoxing, home group members would talk to them and they would share their experiences with alcohol and how they recovered, but never give them the solution. Never try to get into the steps. Never try to get into anything in real detail about what this process demands or requires. And the reason is because right here we have our brains have to be cleared before we can start understanding or accepting most of this stuff. Let's go down here to the right there. The doctor's talking about with all their scientific approach, they were not well equipped to apply the powers of good that lie outside their synthetic knowledge. Now, this doctor is starting to promote the spiritual movement, man. He knew that there was some type of moral psychology that needed to happen. But for us alcoholics, regular moral psychology was not enough for us to actually be able to do it, right? So there was something outside of the doctor, and he knew that this something about this spiritual approach was making a difference in these men and women's lives. So once again, he's talking about, he goes on to say the unselfishness of Alcoholics Anonymous members, the entire absence of profit motive, a community spirit. And it really inspired this doctor, man. It was a power that was pulling chronic alcoholics back from the gates of death. And so he ends, but he says, of course, the alcoholic ought to be freed from his physical craving for liquor. And that often requires a definite hospital procedure. Okay. I do not, and we do not have to detox people at home. If somebody wants to, that's their choice. I and Alcoholics Anonymous recommends at least a doctor's visit or a checkup. I don't play with detox because I'm not a doctor, and that's the bottom line. Early on in AA, there were some that detoxed at home, but for the most part, when you found somebody who was wanting this program, we got them to a hospital, and they detoxed in a hospital. So the doctor's talking about, we believe that the action of alcohol on these chronic alcoholics is a manifestation of an allergy. The phenomena of craving is limited to this class and never occurs in the average temperate drinker. So the action of alcohol, once I put it in my body, this physical condition that I have, science has come such a long way since 1930s. They can tell you exactly what happens to the alcoholic. I don't get into that. I can talk about it, but it's a lot of wasted time for me. The fact is that my chemicals, my bodily, the way it metabolizes and processes alcohol is different than other people. And I get this side effect that's called a craving. This craving that's limited to my class and my class only. The real alcoholic gets a craving. You will get it. There's no way around it. It doesn't happen sometimes, and sometimes it does not happen. It happens all the time. We get a craving. And I'm going to throw in a little experience on this craving, man. Some medicines will give you a craving for food. They say may cause increased appetite. That's the munchies, right? I was taking this medicine one time and I got that craving. I had guys living with me that were on the same medications and they did not get the craving. Some did, but some didn't. So that really reinforced for me, and I put two and two together, that, man, my craving, when I put alcohol in my body, this craving for more, this insatiable desire to keep slamming that stuff in my face, was a reaction to the medicine. It's a reaction to alcohol that is physically uncontrollable. And so let's get into why we drink. Men and women drink because they like the effect produced by alcohol. The sensation is so elusive that while they admit it is injurious, they cannot, after a time, differentiate the true from the false. To them, their alcoholic life seems the only normal one. They are restless, irritable, and discontent unless they can again experience the sense of ease and comfort which comes at once by taking a few drinks. Drinks they see others taking with impunity. After they have succumbed to the desire again, as so many do, the phenomena of craving develops. They pass through the well-known stages of a spree, emerging remorseful, with a firm resolution not to drink again. This is repeated over and over. And unless this person can experience an entire psychic change, there is very little hope of his recovery. Okay, big paragraph here. I like the effect produced by alcohol. I did not go overboard on cocaine because that was not the effect I was looking for. I did not go overboard on heroin, crystal meth, any acid, uh, um, shoot, I'm having a blank right now. What's the other one? The ecstasy. I did not go overboard on those. Number one, I was very scared of them. Number two, they did not give me the effect I was looking for. And so that alcohol was my go-to. But I promise you, if alcohol was not around, I was going to find something to give me a desired effect. And so it tells me that I'm restless, I'm irritable, and I'm discontent unless I can experience the ease and comfort. And that's what alcohol did for me. It gave me ease and comfort. So through this process of Alcoholics Anonymous, by going through these 12 steps, I'm looking for this ease and comfort. That's what I'm looking for. That's what I've been looking for since I was a child, is a way to get through life and to get through my days and find some ease and some comfort. And that happens when this entire psychic change happens, by going through these steps. And then the doctor tells us, and here's a little controversy. Once we go through these steps, this guy suddenly finds himself easily able to control his desire for alcohol. The only effort necessary being required to follow a few simple rules, which is the 12 steps. Now the doctor's seeing these people, and if they're tempted, they're easily able to control that temptation. Some people say, well, I've lost control, I'll never gain control again. I lost choice. I don't have the choice in the matter. I don't know about that. We're going to read later in this book that today, being a recovered member of Alcoholics Anonymous, I have a choice. I can recoil from alcohol as if from a hot flame. I do not have to put that in my system. And that's how I stay as long as I'm in fit spiritual condition. Because when I'm in fit spiritual condition, I find my ease and my comfort without going to the bottle. And so there's hope, man. We don't stay in this uncontrollable, unmanageable state of mind. We have recovered from a hopeless state of mind and body. And the kicker, the doctor knows that more than a human power is needed to produce this psychic change. That it's not just a problem of mental control. We have to have the spiritual experience is a process required to bring about recovery. It's a process that changes my perception. It changes my thinking about things. Old behaviors, we will call them character defects later. These things get removed, and I find some peace and comfort. This was the kicker for me, was I had to realize that, man, it wasn't just about stopping drinking. I had done that many times. I needed to find some peace and comfort so I could live without drinking. And that's what I found in this program. So once again, he talks about the phenomena of craving a little bit more. How we drink and drink and drink ourselves into drunks. Because we're trying to overcome a physical craving that happens in our body once we put it in our system. And he gives us these different types of alcoholics, okay? But here's a big part here. All these and many others have one symptom in common. They cannot start drinking without developing the phenomena of craving. That's what we all have in common, guys, is when we put alcohol in our system, we develop a phenomena of craving where I cannot stop. I get this insatiable craving for more alcohol. Um, my my divorces, my vehicle wrecks, my job losses, my criminal charges, all of those circumstances of our drinking, those are all different, people. None of that qualifies us to be an alcoholic. What we have in common is we cannot start drinking without getting this phenomena of craving. And he's talking about how most chronic alcoholics are doomed. Okay, he had this one guy that he was so bad off he was only living to drink, and that's basically where I got. I was at the end where I could not live unless I had a drink. There was no way around it. So this person accepted the plan outlined in this book. Big triple star there. Outlined in this book. We have a plan, we have a process of recovery that's outlined in this book. This doctor at this world renowned hospital is telling us to accept this plan in this book, and we could possibly recover from chronic alcoholism. When he needs a mental uplift, he thinks of this other fella that had gone through this process. And nobody could ever tell this guy that in the future that he would have the willpower to resist the impulse to drink, right? And he didn't want to go through with this treatment. He did not want to go through with this 12-step process. He wasn't talking to no Oxford Group folks or no AA folks, right? Because nobody could assure him that in the future that he would have the willpower to resist the impulse to drink. And I'm going to tell you guys, when we get to step 10, we learn proper use of the will, and we can exercise our willpower along those lines. And by doing that, I remain peaceful. I remain peaceful with my fellow men, and I remain peaceful with God, and I get this ease and this comfort. And I don't have to run to the bottle or any other abnormal behaviors. So the guy went through the steps, man, and I really like this part at the end. This guy he's talking about who was looking for the willpower. Somebody had to promise him that he would be able to resist this first drink in the future. And it says this guy did become sold on the ideas contained in this book. He hadn't had a drink for a great many years. I see him now and then, and he's a fine specimen of manhood as one could meet. I earnestly advise every alcoholic to read this book through. And though perhaps he came to scoff, he may remain to pray. So the man became sold on the ideas of this book. And he practiced these principles with his other fellow AA members and recovered from a chronic state of alcoholism. So in the doctor's opinion, the doctor wants to reinforce two things for us. Number one, that it's physical. Guys, we have a physical condition called alcoholism. We have a physical condition where our bodies get a side effect to the medicine called alcohol, and we get this phenomenal craving for more once it's in our bodies. The other thing is this strange obsession that once we quit, we can't leave it alone. The doctor's talking about we need a psychic change. We need a spiritual experience that psychologists couldn't seem to give it to us. The clergymen couldn't seem to give it to us. But this group of people in Alcoholics Anonymous were able to reach another alcoholic and transmit this experience and this spiritual experience so that other people could have it themselves, find the peace that we're looking for, and they too could recover from alcoholism. So the two main things, guys, the doctor is clearly stating, read the book. There's a spiritual experience. More than human power is needed to recover from alcoholism, and it is physical. And like I said in the beginning of this session, that there have been times when I've had a fleeting thought, and my mantra is, Lonnie, you are a real alcoholic. You have a medical condition called alcoholism. You cannot drink. And most of the time, I have enough peace to where those thoughts just simply vanish, and I go on about my business. So great, guys. Glad you're hanging in there. We'll get into the next segment after a smoke break. So take it easy. Talk to you later. Bye.